So let's take a quick look at the Power Apps and Power Automate Administration Center in Microsoft 365. Now, just so you know, Power Automate used to be called Flows, and you'll still see that terminology appear occasionally, just so you're aware of that. So I'm in my Office 365 Admin Center, and I'm going to expanded it out, and I want to come down to all admin centers. And under Admin Centers, you'll see Security, Compliance, Active Directory. Click on All Admin Centers here. And this will show you all of your admin centers. And you're going to see a couple here. You're going to see Power Automate and Power Apps. Now, this is going to kind of depend, what you see in here and what you're allowed to do here is going to kind of depend a little bit on the permissions that you have or the license level that you have. That's the word that I wanted. Okay, so Power Apps and Power Automate will actually both take you to the same place. They're going to take you to, you'll see it referenced here, the Power Platform Admin Center. And Power Apps, you'll see use the Power Platform Admin Center. So it doesn't matter which one you click on, it's going to take you to the same place. And here's your Power Platform Admin Center. Now, this revolves around the idea of environments. So you can create different environments and you can have different settings in different environments and you can keep things isolated within their environment. So you can have different users have access to different environments, you can have different templates, you can have different security permissions, you have different databases, and you can keep things isolated within their individual environments. Now you've got one created by default, your default environment, and if you to add more, you need to have a license. I've got a trial license, so it's not going to work, but let me show you where it's at anyway. It's this plus new right here, add new. This will create a new environment. So we're going to set a new name for the environment. I'm going to do a temp environment. Here are my different types of environments: sandbox, trial, subscription-based, production, and trial. And if you want to explore more of those, this little link or this little icon will pop up and tell you a little bit more about how you can access more information. To learn more about the environment types, click this overview. Your region is going to predefine some settings for you. So the default is United States, but you can go to a bunch of other different regions as well. And then the purpose for the environment. And then the last option down here is, do you want to create a database for this environment? Now, if you do, which in a lot of cases you're going to want to, right? You're going to, if you're running Power Apps and Power Automate, you're probably going to want places to store the information. So you're going to want to create a database, but be aware that you have to have the space available in your subscription. So if I go to create one right now, it's going to tell me that it can't because, we'll pop up the message, can't be created because your tenant needs at least 1 gigabyte of database capacity, and I don't have that because it's trial copy. So here's where I can monitor capacity or learn more about it. So that's where you'd go to create a new environment. Now, once you have an environment, we'll look at this one right here, our default environment. It'll tell you the type, what state it's in, what region it's in, when it was created, who created it. So to access the environment, you just click on the environment name. Now, this doesn't get you into the environment. This gets you to the back end of the environment administration. And here you're going to see our environment URL, the region, the type. So all the information about it. You're also going to see no security group assigned. Don't worry about that. That's because I only have one environment. When I have multiple environments, then I can associate different security groups with different environments. So to edit my details, I'll click my edit button here. And you'll see just a handful of settings there. That's not where most of your settings are going to come from. Most of them are going to come from here. But let's go ahead and look at the rest of this. So we have access, we have security roles, we have teams, we have users. And then for each of these, we can click See All. So these are all the users who can access the environment. Let me go back to my settings. Oops, I didn't want to go to settings. I wanted to go to here. We're going to come back to settings in a minute. So I'm going to come back to my default. Here are my security roles, and I can see all of that as well. This gives me my database version. Now, you may not have that if you haven't created a database already. I went ahead and did, so you just see the database version here. You don't actually, you create the database here, but you don't actually create the tables or do anything else with the database here. That's actually going to happen somewhere else. and then updates. That's going to happen in Power Apps. And then we have resources associated with this environment. Dynamics 365 apps, portals, Power Apps, and flows. Remember I said Power Automate and or used to be named flows? Well, here's an example where we see the old name flows, and we'll see that we have none created for this environment. I'll show you actually how to access the Power Apps and Power Platform here in a few minutes. Okay, or Power Apps and Power Automate. All right, so back to our settings. Now, again, under here you'll see resources, which mirrors the resources over there. This is where we're going to do most of our configuration. So here's where we'll set the settings, and we can search for a setting here, which is convenient because there's a lot of them. But let's just scroll through a few of these just to get you a little familiarity with them. So the product, I'm going to have behavior, features, languages, privacy, and security. So let's click on behavior. And this is going to show me the basic behavior, and remember, this is for this environment. So I can choose any of these behaviors to turn off or on. My display behavior, my legacy app name. Do I want to show the welcome screen at sign on? What do I want for formatting? Let's go back to our settings, and we can look at features. So this is going to be features that are available. Do I want to allow AI Builder preview models? Do I want to allow embedded content from Bing Maps? Or do I want to prevent social data in Dynamics? And you'll see a whole bunch of features available here. And there's a bunch of these are predefined, but you can go back through and configure them. When you create an environment, it basically just creates a basic environment. And then you come back through and you customize the environment by going through the settings. Okay. Business lets us look at things like business closures, calendar, connection roles, currencies, users, and permissions. We can view business units, hierarchy security, mobile configuration. We can look at audit logs. We can look at templates that we have available in this environment. We can look at email settings or integration settings for this environment. All right, you see we have a lot of customization that we can do in the environment. But remember, all of this, we're managing the environment. We're not actually looking at flows or the apps. Think of it as this is the fish tank. So I've got a couple of fish tanks in my house. I build the environment. I put in the water. I manage the water quality. I choose the tank. I put in the substrate. I put in the plants, the lighting, the filtering. Okay, all of that is the environment. It doesn't actually, it affects the way the fish in that fish tank live and behave, but it doesn't actually define the fish, right? It just sets the environment for the fish. Well, in the same way, environments here, we're not actually working with the fish at the moment. We're not working with the apps or the flows. We're working with the environment that the apps and the flows are going to work with, or the apps and the Power Automate. Power BI works with these environments as well. So where do I get to the actual Power Apps, Power Automate? So for that, we're going to go back to the Microsoft 365, and I want to come to my apps up here. For that matter, I could have come to my apps here, but whatever. Stop that. There you go. All right, let's go back to my apps. So I'm going to go to All Apps, and you're going to see as we scroll down, you're going to see Power Apps and Power Automate. Notice, by the way, the icon is the exact same as for flows. Whatever. All right, so if I want to view Power Apps, I click on Power Apps. And now this is working within that environment. And you'll see right here, here's my environment that I have defined. I'm in that environment. And if I wanted to choose a different environment, if I had more, I could come down here and pick a different environment that I could operate in. Now, we're not going to explore Power Apps. That's going to be more than we want to delve into at the moment. But I do want to show you just a couple of things here to give you a start to go exploring. So here are a bunch of things we can view. This is our home. We can start from specific data. We can make our own app, which is the point of Power Apps, is to do app development in a low-code or no-code environment. Here is what I wanted to point out particularly, learning for every level. And this is where you begin to explore Power Apps or, find a good book or other good videos. But this is where you begin to explore Power Apps. Now, we already have one, the Solution Health Hub. This is predefined, so we're not going to worry about that too much. This is where we'll begin to learn about Power Apps. And like I said, we're not going to delve into that right now, but that's where we begin. Also, notice up here we have our learning, which takes us to this other page, which is all about learning new things in Power Apps, guided learning, help topics, community. We have the apps themselves that we can create. We have a create option right here to create new ones. Here's where we can look at our actual data. And remember, I said we created the database before for the default environment. But we don't manage it from the admin side. Here's where we manage it. So I can look at my tables. I've got a bunch of stuff pre-built here from Microsoft Dynamics, but this is where I'm going to manage it. Add a new table. Export data, get data, analyze in Power BI or Business Intelligence, export to Data Lake, use the AI Builder to create a new model or to see existing models. So all of that is going to be here under this section in data. And remember, different environments are going to have different databases. So we want to make sure that we're working in the right environment to get access to the data that we want. And then flows, chatbots, AI Builder. So that's how we set up an environment for Power Apps, Power Automate, or the Power Platform if you want to refer to them all at one time. And this is where we access them. Now, real quick, I'm going to take you to, by the way, these will always change with what you've accessed most recently or what Microsoft thinks you're going to access most recently. And so Power Apps now shows up here. Let me go to All Apps, and we're going to go to Power Automate real quickly. And here in Power Automate, welcome to Power Automate. And this, remember, it's working in that Power Platform environment. So it's working in the same environment right here. Access to our environments. Pick the one we want if we have more than one. And this is where we're going to create new action items, new flows, where we're going to work with templates. So everything from the Power Platform operating within that same environment, so Power Apps, Power Automate, operating in the same environment with the same data. Okay, so just enough to hopefully get you started. Let me point out one last thing. Down here for Power Automate, we also have a section for learning more about Power Automate, just like we did with Power BI. Okay, or Power Apps. There we go. Right thing. Okay, so hopefully that gives you enough to start looking into Power Apps and Power Automate.